Good afternoon. I'm calling the hearing of the Assembly Education Committee to order. Will the Secretary please call the roll to establish a quorum?
O'Donnell.
Here.
Chavez.
Here.
Kim. McCarty. Santiago. Thurmond. Weber.
Here. There is a quorum.
Thank you. A quorum has been established. We have 15 bills on file today, and 8 of them are on consent. The bills on consent are SB 118, SB 148, SB 276, SB 320, SB 436, SB 532, SB 645, SB 786. I also need to make a special announcement regarding amendments in order to meet short timelines posed by the summer recess. Amendments that are accepted by the committee for most of today's bills will be processed by the next committee. The motion for those bills will be due pass, and the amendments will be processed by the Appropriations Committee. These bills are SB 210, SB 271, SB 276, SB 359, and SB 369. We have 3 bills for which, if committee amendments are accepted, the motion will be due pass as amended, and the amendments will be processed by this committee. Those bills are SB 148, SB 252, SB 786. With that, we are ready to begin. We will allow 2 witnesses per side to testify on each bill, and each witness will have 2 minutes, 2 and 2. After the witnesses, all others in support and opposition may state their name, affiliation, and position on that specific bill. We will hear bills in sign in order, although we are one exception. We're going to take file item number 3, SB 210 by Senator Galgiani first, if you wish to come forward. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I'm here today to present SB 210 relating to language acquisition benchmarks for deaf and hard of hearing children. The ability and right to develop one's language is central to the human experience and a necessary prerequisite to personal growth. Current statistics show that many children who are deaf and hard of hearing arrive at kindergarten with severe language delays and in many cases language deprivation. These children begin kindergarten without the necessary language skills to acquire the knowledge and academic capabilities which will allow them to be successful in school and in life. Currently, there are no requirements to assess the language development of children from birth to 5 years of age who are deaf and hard of hearing, or to monitor their progress. And this includes the children who have both parents who are either deaf or hard of hearing as well. In order to assure that children who are deaf and hard of hearing have the language foundation to enter kindergarten ready to learn, formal milestones and benchmarks must be established and monitored. In order to assure that all children's constitutional right to a public education is fulfilled, students must be able to demonstrate progress in language and communication skills consistent with his or her age and cognitive abilities. SB 210 is an important step in this direction by helping children in the deaf and hard of hearing community develop the required literacy and other skills needed to meet state standards, including the Common Core standards. I'm proud to have representatives today from a broad coalition of support, including the California Association of the Deaf, the California Coalition of Option Schools, and the Center for Early Intervention on Deafness. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. And your witnesses?
Good afternoon. My name is Julie Rems-Mario. I am the president of the California Association of the Deaf. Like you, language has given us information. Language gives us power. Language gives us social skills, and language gives us confidence. Language, for majority of people, are taken for granted. So, for language for our deaf people, so they can become tax-paying, contributing citizens. We have perfectly capable deaf children who are falling through the cracks because of lack of accountability, lack of language acquisition. So research has already shown that deaf babies are just like our hearing children, but they're not given the opportunity to learn language acquisition for the first 2. Did you know the first 2 years of a baby's life, their brains develop 3 times larger, and their window stops after that. So that is a critical time for language acquisition. So they're overlooked by the education and the medical system. That's not fair to parents. Parents often do not know that their child's language is deprived until they arrive beyond kindergarten, sometimes not until middle school or high school. That is a travesty that we have here in the state of California with our 17,000 deaf and hard of hearing children. So it is time for language acquisition is now. With SB 210 passing with your eye support can ensure 100% of our deaf children can give back to our society with a solid foundation of language acquisition. And that is called ASL English. Believe me, I know because I am one of them. I am language deprived syndrome. It's too late for me, but it's not too late for babies that are born today. So you can make that difference for deaf and hard of hearing children in the state of California, and it's a historical moment. It's a basic human right, which is language acquisition. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
Good afternoon, Chair O'Donnell and members of the committee. My name is John Porteous. I am the board president of the Children's Choice for Hearing and Talking, also known as CHAT, located here in Sacramento. On behalf of the California Coalition for Option School and the Center for Early Intervention of Deafness, I am here in support of SB 210. We are nonprofit, non-public school, and agency certified by the state. We teach young children who are deaf and hard of hearing to learn to listen and to use spoken language. We recognize that some children in this state are being deprived access to language, one of the most basic needs to succeed in school. Despite all the work around implementing new standards, these standards do not matter if the children do not have access to language. This bill provides for language benchmarks and recognizes that children may use American Sign Language, written English, spoken English, or English with the use of visual supplements. Parents at our schools are pleased that the IFSP and the IEP teams throughout the state will receive benchmarks to assist with the tracking progress and making decisions to support children's language development. This bill takes the first step in ensuring the children aged birth through 5 are kindergarten ready by monitoring their progress towards English literacy. I would like to thank Senator Galliani for her leadership on the issue. I would like to thank Tanya, the committee staff, who has worked tirelessly on the issue. And we are also pleased to join Sherry Farina and the California Association for the Deaf in support of SB 210. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there others in support?
Hello. My name is Sherry Farina. I am the representative for the California Coalition of Agencies serving the deaf and hard of hearing in California. My agency is NorCal Services for Deaf and Hard of Hearing, headquartered in Sacramento, California, and our particular agency serves 24 counties in northeastern state of California. There are 8 sister agencies that cover the entire region of all 50 counties, and we work with state entities such as Department of Social Services, Department of Rehabilitation, Employment Development Department, looking for ways to bridge the gap and to better serve our deaf and hard of hearing individuals, basically from the womb to the tomb. We are agencies that we see the end result of children who leave high school many times with only a certificate because they cannot pass a high school written exam. They cannot read and write. We are then expected to find ways to help them, to place them in jobs, and many times we cannot. Unemployment rate is the highest among the deaf and hard of hearing community, and that is why we decided we have to go back and figure out what is happening with the system, and it starts at the beginning. The system needs to meet the needs of the deaf child and asking the deaf child to meet the needs of the system. With your support today means a lot to us. We truly want to thank each and every one of you, especially Tanya Lieberman for her outstanding work that she came up with us to come up with outstanding amendments, and also the Department of Education and working with our partners who, for the first time in the history in our nation, that we have two opposing groups working together for the same goal. The common goal is what? English literacy for deaf and hard of hearing children. California, if they pass and you sign this into law, it will be the first in the nation to do this bill. So your support is critical. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support? Seeing no other witnesses in support. Any in opposition? I don't see any opposition. We'll bring it back to the committee. I just want to thank you for leading the fight against language deprivation. Very important step. And also the groups that are here today for everybody working together, because I know sometimes the communities don't always agree. So I want to thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Move the bill.
It's been moved and seconded. Do we have any other committee members that wish to comment? Seeing no comment, you may close. And just to clarify, you do accept the amendments?
Yes, we do.
Great.
And I, too, thank you for your work with us to ensure that we have some amendments that will address concerns and make this a better bill. So I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is due pass to appropriations. O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Chavez?
Aye.
Chavez, aye. Kim? Aye. Kim, aye. McCarty? Aye. McCarty, aye. Santiago? Thurmond? Weber? Aye. Weber, aye. It's out 5-0.
The bill is out 5-0. Good work. We'll now have Senator Hancock, file item number 1, SB 645 and 725. It's file item, hold on here, it's file item 14, I'm sorry, file item 14, SB 725.
There you go. Do a curve.
She's not here. Do we have any? Who else do we have? Okay.
Senator Mitchell.
Senator Mitchell, are you ready? I am. Then you may come forward. We'll hear file item number 9, SB 359, file item number 9. You may proceed when ready.
But I knew Dr. Weber would have something to say about that. Good afternoon, colleagues. I'm really happy to be here to present and talk to you a little bit about Senate Bill 359, the Fair Mathematics Placement Act of 2015. I'd like to begin by thanking the consultant for a great analysis and by accepting the committee's clarifying and technical amendments recommended on page 7 of that analysis. We've been working closely with the Department of Education and the chair and staff on amendments that further strengthen the policy to make sure that students are not misplaced. The amendments clarify the definition of, quote, objective academic measures, end quote, to include statewide mathematics assessments, interim and summative assessments, and other placement tests which are aligned with current state standards in mathematics. The amendments also address districts that are not unified so that there is consistency of placement policies between elementary and high school districts. This bill requires school districts with middle schools and high schools to implement fair mathematics placement policies. Math misplacement, colleagues, occurs when 9th grade students are held back to repeat their 8th grade math course despite having achieved a B grade or better, or testing at proficient or even advanced on state assessments, instead of being advanced to the next course in the recommended math sequence as a freshman in high school. Despite an urgent need to increase the number and diversity of workers entering the STEM career pipeline, studies indicate that many successful math students, particularly African American and Latino students, are being unnecessarily held back in math. According to a 2010 Noyce Foundation study, nearly 65% of students who took Algebra 1 in 8th grade were made to repeat the class in 9th grade. Because colleges evaluate students on their academic preparation and the rigor of their academic track record, those who are forced to repeat a math course that they've already completed successfully have less time to complete other required and challenging coursework necessary for college admission. SB 359 will require school districts to develop, establish, and maintain a mathematics placement policy for ninth grade that will: 1. Consider objective measures as the basement for placement, such as statewide assessments, diagnostic placement tests, and grades. And with recent amendments, we've expanded the types of multiple measures districts have at their disposal when implementing this bill. Without the appropriate math classes in high school, a student is derailed from their college trajectory and is unlikely to be competitive for college entrance. SB 359 is sponsored by the Silicon Valley Community Foundation and co-sponsored by the NAACP. This bill enjoys a diverse support of constituency, including education leadership, business groups, civil rights organizations, higher education, philanthropic organizations, individuals, and faith-based groups. This measure will ensure that students are fairly and appropriately placed in mathematics courses according to their skill set, and will ensure that parents have the tools they need to question placement decisions. We have two witnesses here who will provide their perspective on the bill, and I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Your witnesses, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee, and thank you, Senator Mitchell, for your leadership on this issue. My name is Erica Wood, and I'm the Chief Community Impact Officer at Silicon Valley Community Foundation. We are the proud sponsor of this bill, and I'd like to tell you why. As an institution, we have a deeply held interest and commitment to ensuring our educational system prepares all students to succeed. And since 2009, we've directed over $12.5 million in grant-making investments to some 200 organizations, including school districts, to close the middle school achievement gap in math and to ensure eighth graders successfully get into and through their math courses that make them college ready. We found that despite our best efforts, we weren't achieving the impact that we had intended. And unfortunately, that many capable students were unnecessarily being held back from progressing through advanced mathematics in high school because they were being made to repeat Algebra 1 in the ninth grade, even though they had successfully completed it in the eighth grade. We heard this anecdotally from our grantee partners, and it was later confirmed in the noise study that the Senator mentioned. We further learned that the scope of this problem was not confined to Silicon Valley or the Bay Area, but was in fact happening to students across California. We commissioned additional research which showed that minority students, even high-achieving minority students, were far less likely to take calculus in the 12th grade compared to their peers. And in the many presentations that our organization has done on this issue, we have people that routinely come up to us afterwards and say, this happened to me, this happened to a friend, or it happened to a member of my family. The consequences of this kind of misplacement are serious and far-reaching. As the Senator mentioned, when students are made to repeat algebra in the ninth grade and not advanced, they don't have the time to complete the requisite math courses that make them competitive for entrance into a four-year college. That's why we're so pleased that the University of California has endorsed and supported this bill. Failure to take these kinds of math classes can have serious educational and economic consequences for students, not to mention impose a heavy emotional toll. And you'll hear about one student's story in a few minutes. But beyond individual students and families, there are economic consequences as well. And we believe math misplacement is contributing to a leak in our STEM pipeline. My organization is headquartered in the heart of Silicon Valley. We're surrounded by firms like Google, LinkedIn, and Yahoo that have released their diversity data for the first time, which shows that an abysmal 3 to 4% of U.S.-born tech workers are African American or Latino. So we are asking ourselves, why would we hold successful students back? And guess what? Businesses are asking the same question, and many prominent business groups are in support of this bill, including Silicon Valley Leadership Group and the Orange County Business Council.
Thank you. If you could summarize.
The good news is there's a fix. You've heard about that. And the question before us is this: do we want California to be the place that says to some of our best and brightest students, you've played by the rules, you've done everything right, but you're not going to advance? Or do we want our state to be one that recognizes the talents and capabilities of our best and brightest and supports their right to be part of a vibrant, diverse workforce that our economy needs? We
Thank
urge
you.
your aye vote on the bill.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Marlon Bussey, and I'm the pastor of St. James AME Zion Church in San Mateo and the president and founder of the St. James Community Foundation. I am here in support of Senate Bill 359. As a retired high school counselor, I worked for 25 years with parents and students to ensure proper math placement. The foundation was started to help alleviate math misplacement in the San Mateo Foster City School District, and now this practice has also affected my own family. I will now read briefly statements from my niece, Andrea Smith, a current upcoming 10th grader, and her mother, my sister, Rhonda Smith. The student statement first. I've always prided myself on being a smart and confident student. I want to be a veterinarian when I grow up. Math has always been my favorite subject, at least until last year. I was supposed to be placed in Math 2 in 9th grade because I got an A in my 8th grade math class. Instead, I was placed in Math 1. It was the worst feeling ever because the class was way too easy and I knew I didn't belong there. I felt as though someone had stamped my head with the word stupid. My love for math and my confidence began to die. Even though my mom advocated for me and eventually got me into the right class, it took 4 weeks and I was way behind by then. Even though I did okay in the class and I've done my best to catch up on what I missed in the first 4 weeks of school, I feel like I have to prove that I belong in the class every day. It has been exhausting, frustrating, and discouraging, and I really wish my freshman year in high school hadn't started that way. The parent statement. When my daughter began high school last fall, we were told by her middle school teacher that she would be placed in Math 2 based on her 8th grade math performance. She had been a strong math student throughout her school life and had earned the grade of A in 8th grade math. Much to our surprise, she was placed in the lower class, Math 1. I contacted her counselor and was told that they needed to let the opening of school settle, then we would revisit the issue. In the first 4 important weeks, my daughter was completing assignments within the first 10 minutes of class, not at all challenged by the work. When I persisted with the counselor, I was referred to the math chair, who told me that students were placed solely on one test score. I knew that multiple measures rather than just one should be used and that a teacher recommendation should be used to advance a student rather than holding them back. 18 emails later, and with lots of help from educators I know, my daughter was finally moved to Math 2. Even though I am highly educated and knew of this math misplacement practice, I still felt intimidated trying to advocate for my daughter. I had the knowledge of how to advocate, and that's why the change was made. I feel for other families who don't have the resources to advocate for their children in the school. This 4-week late start and initial math misplacement has had a damaging effect on my daughter's math confidence. She worked relentlessly to catch up, and although she passed the course, it saddens me that the love and passion she once had for math has suffered. For all the students who, because of math placement, cannot reach their academic and career goals, I urge you to support
Thank you.
SB 359.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support. Just come up, state your name, your affiliation, and your position
Good
on the
afternoon,
bill,
Chair and
please.
members. Bless Shepard, representing the Silicon Valley Leadership Group in support, Bayer Healthcare in support, and the California League of Community Foundations in support. Thank you.
Erica Hoffman on behalf of the California School Boards Association in support.
Jennifer Bezzosa, I'm the Director of Education Advocacy at the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights of the San Francisco Bay Area, and we support the bill.
Shireen Walter, California State PTA, the Parent Teacher Association in support.
Callie Durr on behalf of Public Advocates in support.
Erica Romero on behalf of the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities in support.
Adrian Lopez on behalf of the University of California in support.
Mr. Chair and members, Lee Angela Reed on behalf of San Francisco Unified School District in strong support.
Brian Rivas on behalf of the Education Trust West in support.
Catherine Williams with the ACLU of California in support.
Any witnesses in opposition? Seeing no opposition, we'll bring it behind the rail here. I just want to thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill support. I don't know how we got into the situation where this was allowed for so long. It's not just students being misplaced, but probably double placed, right?
Right.
Taking the same class twice and thus being left behind.
Exactly.
So it's very important policy. It's very important that the locals address this, and I appreciate your efforts here today, very much so. Very much so. Hugely important to our economy, we heard that, but also to individual students' lives. So I thank you again. Any other members of the committee?
I want to thank Senator Mitchell for bringing this forward. And we heard this report at a retreat or meeting the Black Caucus had in Silicon Valley. And we had read the report, seen the information. And I think to a person, the Black Caucus was outraged over what was happening. The unfortunate thing, obviously, is that it took a group like the Silicon Valley to raise this issue. This is not a new issue, as some of you would believe. It is an old issue, very well known in communities of color, where children are constantly misplaced based on really racial profiling, if you want to call it that, where kids of color are made to feel like they don't belong in advanced placement classes, are oftentimes asked to leave when they're put in those classes, are discouraged from being there, and put out of those classes on a regular basis in our schools. And I know when I was a school board member, I was constantly fighting to make sure those kids were included in those programs where they were being discouraged from attending the classes and discouraged from being in the classes and sometimes made to feel like they didn't belong. I think all of us African Americans who've been in any university class, in any high school class when we were younger, were often made to feel like we didn't belong in those classes because basically folks didn't think we would achieve. And so it's interesting that it has taken, unfortunately, it's taken a group like the Silicon Valley that folks respect in terms of authority to have somewhat of an impartial, but at the same time a vested interest in the results to bring this forward to us. Being math misplaced is only one piece of it. There are a lot of science misplacement and a lot of other things that our students are not included in the programs, AP classes and on, where the efforts are made to discourage them from participating, and we see the end results in them not being admitted into our universities, not having the right requirements, and all those kinds of things. And so it's a tremendous challenge. We have to face it as it is in terms of what is really happening to children of color in our K-12 system, that we are often being racially profiled in the classrooms and not given the challenging courses that we need. Not having adequate AP classes in inner city schools is also another barrier for our students getting into the University of California. I currently don't have an AP class in my district, in the inner city section of my district of the 79th, I've discovered. Not one AP class being offered, which is a travesty when we know that AP classes become the gatekeeper to the University of California. So this is only the tip of the iceberg in terms of the challenge we face if we're really going to educate the children of California, and especially as California becomes a more and more diverse state, and so forth, as we talk about bringing California children into it. So I thank the Silicon Valley community for what they've done, the foundation, for the research they provided. I want to challenge all of us, however, to listen carefully to the communities who bring forth these issues about their children not being included in programs and often being excluded intentionally from programs, and not simply dismiss this as a parent who wants their child to have a little bit more challenge, but the fact that sometimes there are these barriers that are often made by recommendations, expectations, all kinds of things that really limit our young people from basically achieving. So I'm glad to know this is coming forward. We heard about it a year ago. I know Senator Mitchell made a commitment on behalf of the Black Caucus to bring this issue forward for us, and I respectfully ask for all of us to support not only this measure, but other measures that may open up the opportunities for the diverse population of California.
Thank you. With that, you may close.
Thank you very much, and I'll be very brief. Dr. Weber said it all. I would just add that, again, it was ironic. Shortly before we had the pleasure of actually convening a hearing in San Jose on this topic, I, as chair of the Black Caucus at the time, was visited by the then new president of the College Board, who was here in Sacramento to introduce himself, who brought to our attention his concern and the actions he was going to take on behalf of the College Board with regard to the same kind of issue going on with placement in AP courses, and beginning to look very critically at the process by which students are recommended for AP courses, and that it's not just a single portal, if you will, which is a teacher recommendation, but that students be given protection, if you will, by having a variety of options available to the school to make the decision, not only teacher recommendation, but test scores and past performance. Very similar to the contents of this bill with regard to math misplacement, and with that I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Secretary. Oh, you know, we need a motion. It's moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
The motion is due pass to appropriations. O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Chavez?
Aye.
Chavez, aye. Kim? Kim, aye. McCarty? McCarty, aye. Santiago? Thurmond? Thurmond, aye. Weber? Weber, aye. 6-0.
6-0, the bill is out.
Thank you very much for your attention.
With that, we'll move to